My favorite way to start a craft is playing with little bits and bobs and just using those as a launching point to figure out how to make a craft. So here I'm making a campaign tent for adventures or nights. The design of this was inspired by pictures of people's actual replica campaign tents online. I liked the design of this one because it looked like it could fold up like a reverse umbrella, which would mean it is a lot easier to transport. Pre-wetting and gluing the cords just so they hold their shape. The thing doesn't flop around. At first I felt like I was going overboard, modeling all these interior components, but when it came time to lay the cloth over to the top of everything, and it just shaped itself perfectly with that gentle slope right away, I knew that I'd done the right thing. I don't know what possessed me to use foam board as the base for this. In the end, it ended up having all sorts of problems because the paper wants to peel off of it, A, and B, it feels like you're carrying something cheap when you're carrying it around, but c'est la vie. Most of these little pieces are from a Whiz Kids terrain set, though the big trees are 2 Woodland Scenics pre-made trees mixed with some 3D printed elements and some bushes I made, all held together with 2-part epoxy. Ah, yeah, you gotta love that sound. It's not your mama's macaroni. I wish I would have had time to get one of those little scissors they use for crafts that have this sort of edge as part of the scissor, but I didn't have time to go grab one. Laborious, tiny flag cutting it is. Dunking the whole thing in watered down Mod Podge was a much better idea than brushing it on. The Mod Podge dries pretty quick, and the whole thing was much stronger after it dried. The Mod Podge one, that is. One of the beauties of super glue is you can use it on a wet surface. So there's no need to wait for these things to dry before assembling. Honestly, these panels are a result of my own stubbornness. Had I just given it an interior structure, it would have been less accurate as to what a pavilion tent looks like, but it would have been much easier just to drape the fabric over it. interesting painting cloth. I'm much more comfortable and used to A, natural materials, and B, stuff that is analogous to plastic. Cloth takes color in an interesting way, so I went through quite the journey painting this thing. After determining that it was too bright and childlike, I tried using some dark wash to give it a more nuanced and dirty appearance. Probably should have done this before putting on the glue. It was a bear to get it on the wet surface, but foam clay really does just work with everything. It isn't happy about being put on a wet surface with your sticky hands, but it'll do it. The one thing was I had to get it really wet so that it would stay, and so I sped dry it because I know that if you leave foam clay to dry with excess water, it ends up melting. So my hope was that the torch would preserve the structure of the texture roller. And it did. And no ill effects from being so heated up so high. So after blackwashing the thing, I realized that it now didn't even look blue. So I started highlighting the edges using progressively lighter shades of blue, much like a miniature painter might do. I was really happy with the effect of this. It still looks a bit dour in my opinion at this stage, and towards the end of the video, I'll end up correcting this a little more. Once I got this cobblestone road put underneath the ground texture, I knew I had something that I was excited by. The idea of an ancient untraveled road and traveling along those roads is such a fantasy classic idea that I just in love with. Taking all of my 3D printed and purchased elements and giving them a bit of yellow shade just so they all fit each other and to give more of a color scheme to the whole piece. And so they stand out from the environment. I like the idea of using these chests as impromptu places to sit, as well as maybe like a surface for cooking on or making your tea, as well as providing cover, of course, in the first time making bushes with coarse flock. I was surprised how much fun it was to make little bushes. The foliage was having a little bit of trouble all feeling connected to each other, so I found that if I did a little sprinkle of the lighter color mix from Woodland Scenics, it unified everything. So let's go.